Welcome to the Rocket Roof Show, where we equip fellow roofers to do more commercial business every first and third Thursday of the month. It's time to launch your business to the next level.
This is Project Command. Stand by at power transfer.
3, 2, 1, blast off!
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Roof Show with your host, Andy Neer. Today I have a really cool guest in the studio here. Really not in the studio. You guys know I do these through a Zoom call usually, but it's more cool to say studio, right? Like I feel like a studio master. So Ryan Groth from the Sales Transformation Group. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thanks, Andy. Glad to be here, bro.
Yeah, I met you a couple times at a couple of conferences. I've seen you online forever, and I know we've interacted on a lot of different platforms. But I never really dove deep into what you did until we met at the RoofCon here. About 3 months ago, and you had a really beautiful booth there set up, and so just wanted to bring you on the show and talk about. First of all, you're going to be at the conference we're putting on in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Now your niche is sales, but you're going to be talking about a few different things than just specifically sales. I know everybody there's 100 people out there that will talk about sales, but you have a few different things that you are going to talk about that are maybe shirt tail cousins of talking about sales. And I know one of those things you like to talk about is predictable revenue. So, and I know a lot of people that are in our space would be like, oh, come on now, you can't really predict revenue. So that intrigued me when you were talking about that. Tell me a little bit about what you mean by predictable revenue.
Yeah. So, thanks for having me on, Andy. I'm excited to be in South Carolina with you guys. Yeah. So predictable revenue I like to also call it Contractor Nirvana, which is like,
not to interrupt you, Ryan, but we're having a little bit of interrupting connection here today with our internet, so bear with us. We're going to try to muddle through it, but bear with us, guys. We'll make sure that you guys get some good content. So continue.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I like to call it Contractor Nirvana, which is, hey, I know what I want to do. I can go get it, and I can get it when I want it. And it's like the dream, right? It's like you have this world of I know where I want to go, and I'm able to do it on purpose when I want to do it. But it's not that easy. You can't just snap a finger to make that happen. And so what I like to do is focus on a few major components that, in the order in which I'm sharing with you, if you implement it properly, you're going to be able to actually forecast the future of your business. And hit those targets consistently and have predictability in your business. And I think this is like what it is. It's exciting. It's like I bring a combination of an outside perspective in the industry. I played professional sports, baseball. I look at like StatCast and numbers and analytics a lot. And you combine that with a business model that I saw demonstrated in South Florida with some sales training components, and you have this ability to build a revenue machine that's predictable. So the first step.
Did you say you played professional sports?
I did. Yeah. I played professional baseball and Division I baseball before that.
That's interesting. Very cool.
Yeah. I played junior college ball, Division I ball at Oral Roberts University in Tulsa. And then I got drafted a couple times and played with the Angels. So I brought in like, in a pro baseball environment, you just have this sports atmosphere that you used to working in as a professional. And
I mean, you got to have predictable stuff in that industry, right? Like everything's run on stats and predictability. People are putting big money down on what's going to happen next year.
Yep. And so for me, I started to say like, wow, there's a lot of opportunity in the roofing industry to create more of that in people's businesses. So the first thing I think is very important is to focus on a market and a client profile that I like to call always there. It's like if there's a horse in the Kentucky Derby, I want to bet on, it's the horse always there, right? And so what I like to call that like commercial and residential leak repair first. So if that's like your first primary, first and foremost target client, you're going to I'd tell you right now, people are going to call for leaks, or you're going to be able to get people to tell you that they have a leak. But to sell a re-roof funded by insurance is not predictable, right? Because it's like a big weather event. It's something that's always like, it's challenging to forecast, and you can go chase storms all you want, but that's the opposite of predictability. So what I like to do instead is say, when is it, what's the most predictable thing that you have in your market? It's being able to service clients in your area who are responding to a leak concern, or they need to fix their roof. So I start with a service model by making sure that you have repairs and you have replacements, both, and restoration work. And coatings is fine, sure, but as your primary focus, right? So then you have the ability to meet somebody where they're at always, and then grow that account. Secondly, one thing that's really important is that, especially in commercial and even residential, but commercial, you need to compensate salespeople in such a way that they care about actually selling repairs and doing preventative maintenance. Because a lot of times salespeople who are hired are not hired to sell repairs. They just try to sell big coating jobs or re-roof jobs. And what they find themselves doing is they never do any service. It's like a thing that they don't want to touch. But if you build your business around it, it becomes wildly predictable, especially when you're prescribing the scope of work and you're writing the scope consistently. You have a lot of predictability, able to diagnose and be the doctor for that owner who doesn't really. They're not a GC. They're not going to beat you up on price and tell you how it should go. They're listening to you as the expert to say, what should I do? So that automatically puts you in a more of a driver's seat to have the outcomes that you're hoping for. Thirdly,
so you didn't use the word, but you're talking about a relationship.
For sure. Yeah. When you're in a bid environment, there's no predictability unless you can predictably know you're the cheapest, and then you always, you know how many bids are coming up.
Yep.
But that's not going to be very business. So I would say the next thing is salespeople who are compensated to build relationships in such a way around service, especially in commercial. And I love commercials because it's recurring revenue, repeat business, like more and more jobs with one set of accounts. But salespeople who are really good at selling and actually can use a good sales process that you track and measure. So I like to have a milestone-centric sales process that's not like, hey, here's my sales process. I got a leak, I'll give you a quote. That's like I like to call quote, bid and beg, spray and pray, bid it and forget it. That kind of sales will never make it predictable because, I don't know about you, Andy, but if I go through your pipeline or a sales guy's pipeline, and then I start to ask them, what did you forecast this month, which most people don't even ask for a forecast. And then I start to go into not just your forecast, but, how did we do last month against our forecast? It would be very off. Like people would struggle to forecast because they realized they didn't get to the decision maker. Oh, they didn't have that second meeting. Oh, they didn't find out what they really wanted. Oh, they didn't really get to the pain. So the sales process, when you start looking at salespeople in hindsight, and you're like, hey, tell me about why this deal didn't close, and you really dig in, it's because the salespeople didn't actually go into a good deep sales process that's consultative. Instead, they were just pricing a job. And I'm just talking, in generalities here. So there's a lot of space for us to split hairs. The bottom line is, if we have sales team focusing on betting on the horse always there, especially commercial and leaks, with a really good sales process, and then the pipeline becomes predictable, then you throw in good tracking. Then you start to say, okay, good. I got salespeople focusing on the right things. I know what my sales cycle is, my deal size, my closing ratio, my margin. When I have enough data over time, I'm actually able to forecast the future of our business and create a sales team that does the sales behaviors. Because it's one thing, Andy, to say, hey, look, I need to bid 30% is my closing rate. I want to do $3 million. I need to bid $10 million. Right? Sure, that makes some sense. But it's another thing when the salespeople are bidding $10 million of bid work that they can't get any information on, or it's another thing to bid $10 million of private work that the sales guy is building relationships with and asking good, great, and tough questions and getting to the decision makers. What do you think is going to be more predictable, right? The second one. So it's actually a pretty, I try to boil down really sophisticated and challenging things into a simple format to create that predictability. But if somebody does it, I mean, they can forecast the future of their success as long as you have the people in place fulfilling a good process and you're tracking it within 10 to 15%. And that makes growth really fun.
So let me ask you a question. A lot of my customers, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but quite a few of my customers, when I go to give them an estimate, and usually these are return customers, but they will, I'll give them an estimate, and I know it's for budgetary purposes. Maybe they're not doing it right now, but they want to do it in August or next December or next year. And so instead of me saying, oh, I need to get the lowest number so I get the job, they're more thinking, well, this job's going to be 150,000. We've got to submit it to our committee or our budget area, our financial office, and have them, right in the budget, and they're saving up for it. And so, I've got quite a few of these people where you can pretty much, put that in your, what you're talking about, your forecast, right? Like, because you've already built a relationship with that customer. I mean, it's not a signed contract, but it is a lot closer.
It's in the pipeline and it's at a certain stage of closing, and you could, if you do a good job, you can actually put a date on it, and then you actually have, I mean, I don't know about you, but how cool would it be to say, hey, I want to go from 4 million to 8 million in 12 months. And instead of just saying, well, I'm going to just run through a brick wall to make it happen, it'd be really cool if you had a sales team that were with a sales process and estimating process, all that in such a way that you can look at it with taking the emotion out of it on paper and say, all right, well, we could probably expect 4 to come in. We need to find 6 more or find 4 more. How do we find, 4 more million? And that's an exciting process to be able to figure out.
I'm guessing you work with sales teams to do this, right? When a sales team or maybe an individual salesman wants to have predictable revenue, that's something you can help them with.
100%. Yeah, that's what our program, our primary program is designed to do, is to give owners and sales leaders that formula to starting to grow on purpose, and to do everything in our part to ensure that to happen. And instead, you're really praying for something in your lap. And I think what I like to do is say, how do you do everything in your power to create a predictable revenue machine, a sales organization that does that? And then when an event comes, like a hailstorm or something unexpected that's in your favor, it's kind of like gravy. It's kind of a boost versus kind of the essence of someone's business model in and of itself, which to me is not a real business that's very reactive, and versus a proactively built, structured, like high-powered, like sales environment that really is conducive of that predictability. It's a big difference.
Okay. So I'm going to switch gears here, and I'm going to talk about another topic that you had elated to on our messaging. And it's something you say is not talked about very often, but it's something you believe it's a problem. And so you mentioned about narcissism. And when you mentioned that word, I'm like, oh yeah, I could definitely see that in the roofing industry for sure. So tell me a little bit about what you think about narcissism, and how does one person know that they are a narcissist?
Wow. Well, thanks for actually letting me talk about this. I've never really talked about this in a platform like this yet. So this is I don't know how it's going to come out.
I want to know if I am one.
Yeah, I mean, it might be. Basically, narcissists are typically a narcissist is characterized by somebody who is highly persuasive and typically very charming. They have what's called a halo effect. And so what that means is they're able to get people to like them like very easily. They have an incredible ability to do that. And then they also are pretty charismatic as well, and and have a glow about them. But they attract a lot of people like that. Like if you look at the Good to Great book by Jim Collins, there's the level 5 leadership. It's the level 4 leader, right? They're on the front page of everything. Everybody knows them, and then they have this drive also. And what I find is that narcissists, they're so driven, and it's their response to how something that happened as a kid, maybe it's not feeling valued or worthy or something that happened, and then they get into this place where they're like hell bent on doing whatever it takes to do X, Y, Z so that Y can happen, or so ABC so that E, F, G can happen. And so they don't really know it yet, but they're like really just a vacuum of energy, and so everything becomes about them. Typically, their spouse or their relationships aren't that great, because it's the show about the narcissist, and it becomes very manipulative. And I think that just what I see is a lot of people in general, but in our industry, who are really good leaders. You got to ask the question: are they a level 4 leader or are they a level 5 leader? Right? Where is this going? Is this about people truly, and are they really using their skills to be magnanimous, defend people, help people who can't help themselves, and be that kind of a leader? Or are they essentially trying to create a platform for themselves so they can feel good about themselves, and everybody becomes a means to their end? And I think that if you look really closely at someone's character, you can see if they are an owner who gets people to like them and get them excited, and then they don't pay their commission checks, or they don't pay so-and-so, or that you see a wake of dead bodies kind of along the way. And I've seen, typically you'll see narcissists, you'll see a lot of turnover in their company. So if you see like a ton of people coming in and out, you might be looking at a narcissist, right? And I think that they're really talented. They always think they're smarter, or their opinion is more right. And those are all strengths. You need them in sales, you need them in leadership. But at the heart level, I think that's where there's issues. And I think that the reason why I'm even talking about this is because I think that I started to see in myself, with how I was treating my family and my drive around business, I started to do some internal digging, and it started getting me on this path of like kind of inner healing, counseling work that kind of helped me realize that, like, I think I'm a narcissist and I don't want to be one. So what's going on? And I started to look deeper at myself. At the end of the day, I was just a kid who felt afraid at one point, and I was like, well, I don't want to feel that anymore, so I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure I don't feel that way. And that usually comes in the form of money or accomplishments or something. And so you become a pretty big deal in your own mind, and you make sure everybody else feels the same. And that's when you feel like you might have arrived, and then it never does. And so deep down, it's like, well, that's not what I want. I want to be an impact. And so it starts to change the way you treat people and lead and inspire as a leader. When you start to realize that, hey, I was becoming one, what caused me to be a narcissist, I've worked on, I've healed up, I've gotten addressed. And man, like, now I can use this gift of persuading people or leading people or inspiring people for others. And that actually gives me more satisfaction than manipulating other people to make my situation better. And I think I've seen both.
So what you're saying is being a narcissist isn't so bad. It's just it has some bad qualities.
We want to thank Top Roof Contractors again for their continuing sponsorship of the Rocket Roof Show. Membership in this organization includes reduced rates for commercial roofing leads, third-party verification to add credibility to your company, and a host of valuable benefits upon acceptance into the network. Learn more about them at toproofcontractors.com.
It's actually incredibly, it could be like everybody who's really leading and really impactful is a little bit of one, right?
Yeah.
Really look at it, but, and it's good. Like they're charming, they're inspiring, like they're that way for
Well, I
me.
mean, you take the chief narcissist of our current time would be Donald Trump. I mean, so many people have labeled him as a narcissist. I mean, it's easily to be seen because of the way he conducts himself. But I would argue to say if he was not a narcissist, if he didn't have that narcissistic quality about him, he would not have been able to be president of the United States or command, the companies that he has with the success that he's had. Now, I'm going to have people debate me that he's successful or not successful, whatever. That's not what I'm really saying. But he has all those things you talked about. He has a likable nature. He's able to make friends and allies easily. But he's like overconfident about himself. So I like what you're saying, how you can actually use that as a attribute for the people you're coming in contact with, but it is a power that you have to be careful of, right? Like,
Totally. Yeah. So what I found for me was awesome was like, hey, I don't need to just be this humble doormat and stop being me. But instead, it's like, instead of me challenging, pushing, pioneering all the things I love to do, am I doing that, bringing people along with me, so that therefore I can be, the word that really changed it for me was magnanimous. So how do you take that power that's like, hey, I could stand up in front of anybody, do anything that, like, I have a lot of self-belief, but how can I use that self-belief for others truly and like, do something that nobody else could do except you? And that's funny because that's what a narcissist would want to hear. They'd be like, oh, I'm the only one that could do this. I'm so great,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That you're so great. Nobody else can do that except you for something that's actually really meaningful. But I think that the ones who don't quite figure that out are still inherently finding a way for it to benefit them deep down. And I think that that's like the switch is like, don't stop being the nature you are. And that's all great. But how do we channel that truly for others? Because at the end of the day, nobody can do that except you. And that's a real opportunity. And it's a real sweet invitation to step into your calling and your destiny in that way. But it's got to be with that in mind. If not, there's gonna be a lot of dead bodies along the way. And unfortunately, you see it a lot. And I think that's where you have to ask some deeper questions about why, and get some work done. Because if not, you're gonna have some really charming, talented, driven people who are gonna hurt people, which sucks to see.
I mean, and I'm sure you've thought about this a lot, but I mean, I'd be hard pressed to name a well-known public figure or celebrity or somebody that's in any kind of, I'm not talking about athletes, but I'm talking about like leaders that are very well known that doesn't have a narcissistic nature about them. I mean, I'm thinking of John Maxwell. I've heard him speak a few times, and very, very humble man, very, very well-known leader, but you can tell he's got a narcissistic nature too, or he wouldn't be able to do what he does. So very, very interesting viewpoint you have there. And I thought I'd explore it a little bit.
Yeah. Hopefully we can all channel our inner narcissist for the good.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, tell me a talent that you have that most people don't know about.
I'm a great entertainer for my kids. I can make them laugh, and I'm the goofiest at home dad. So I'd say that. I really like to ask great questions with new friends. I love to kind of dig deep, and I think getting into another talent would be like getting people to talk. Like I can get someone to say stuff that like my wife's like, how did you get that? All of a sudden they're like sharing their deepest, darkest, like life secrets. Like, yeah, I don't know. I just get in there. I just find a way, and it's just me. So I like to, and I think I'll probably get into some counseling or something later on in, you know, my older years, because I like that stuff.
Yep.
It's fun. Yeah.
So, what is your favorite place to vacation?
So
I know you live in a pretty amazing place, so it's probably hard to vacation from that. But
yeah, I live where most people vacation.
yeah.
So this is my vacation permanently until and then I go. I live in Maui, Hawaii, so we got a home here, and we used to live in South Florida, which is also another vacation place.
Yep.
So we've all lived in a vacation destination. But I say that anything out of the U.S. is my favorite. Kind of getting out into other countries is definitely my favorite for sure.
Okay. What new things are you personally trying to learn here in 2022?
We're right now. I'm learning to lead a little bit at a different level of leadership. So our company's grown a ton, pretty all in with business. But I'm learning leadership. I don't have a ton of extra hobbies. We do some family stuff, but I work super hard on the business. I love it. It's like my favorite thing to do is to build business. So right now we're at a place where, you know, we're raising capital, we're getting investors to help us grow. And so that's just an entirely different skill set. And it's sales, but it's different, you know, deep spreadsheet formulas and you know, numbers and metrics and assumptions. You know, it's a fun thing to learn how to navigate those types of conversations. And so that would be what I'm learning, is how to lead more like a true executive versus like an inspiring coach. But we're leading our company's really growing into a more like an online platform with a multiplicity of product offerings, and we're also, one thing that's lastly, as I'll say, is learning how to do that all remotely. So we have our employees are spread out in our company across the U.S. We have you know, closing in on, you know, a couple dozen employees, and so we manage all of it remotely, and so that's been an interesting challenge. But I don't want to go back because man, it opens up the talent pool. It gives people coverage, you know, across the country. It forces us to do things in a really creative way. So we love it.
Do you have about 20 employees? Do you deal with each one of them independently, or do you have people that don't report to you, that report to people under you?
Yeah, so I have, so I'm the CEO. Our org chart sets up where I'm the CEO. I have a president who we kind of co-lead. He holds two of our executive leaders accountable, one oversees marketing and sales. And then we have a sales and marketing lead that reports to him. And then we have an SVP who oversees like strategic initiatives like channel partnerships, product roadmap, and also like customer experience or what we call a business strategist. And then there's people in each of those departments that report up to them. So I really have one true direct report, but then I kind of go in anywhere I want. But I try to work through, you know, the leadership that's in place.
The reason I asked that is because, you know, for a number of years I thought, you know, I'm a pretty good leader. Probably not the best I can be, but I'm a pretty good leader. But I really found, you know, I work with another organization besides Empire, and in that organization, you know, you have to kind of grow extensively, and I've found that I have a hard time training people to be leaders themselves. And John Maxwell, I think one of his quotes is like, true leaders develop other leaders. And it's like, okay, you can develop these people and they're just going to follow you and do what you say, but at what point in time do you stop? That's not how you build an army, right? Like you have to, when you build an army, you have to have lieutenants and captains and officers and all of the people below you that are all, you can't have 25 people reporting to you individually, right? Like, and so I've struggled personally. I'm just gonna tell you, I struggled with that, and I think this year I'm really starting to get a grasp, and that's only because I've reached out to people that I've seen done it personally and mimic what they're doing. So,
yeah, it's a couple things are really beneficial of having direct reports. That when you build an org chart and a structure, one of them is that people see that there's a ladder of potential, right? And you're able to actually like give them like, hey, leadership is how our organization is founded upon. Like we need leaders. So I think that's really important because it gives people like how they can see themselves with you longer, because more, people want to grow. They don't want to stay the same. And then also like when you can just build a team that you trust to get things done, oh my gosh, like it is amazing. Like, I don't know about you, Andy, but if you had marketing, sales, production, and collections taken care of, and it was growing, and you were able to see it grow, and you're able to influence it how you want, but not have to do it, you would spend more time doing something that ultimately is going to make more of an impact for the business anyway, right? It's not like you're going to go fishing and do nothing, right? You're going to, at least, you're going to go find a way to open a big door or create a new opportunity or to recruit awesome talent or to lead the charge. And so I like to say this,
but
like,
you can squander it too, though. Keep that thought. You can squander it too, because my daughter's my office manager, and she's done an amazing job of learning a lot of things last year. She went and took some accounting classes, and she can do in 1 hour. It used to take her 8 hours doing the books. She got an assistant. She's delegated a lot of tasks off to her, and some of the tasks I used to do, and now it's like I don't have to do them. And now all of a sudden I got a bunch of time on my plate. Of course, I'm going into winter too, so my leads and my the production is a lot lower than it used to be. So put those two together, now I'm like, okay, I got extra time in my hands, and I find myself like floating into her office, like micromanaging, like, yeah, what are you doing? You're supposed to be busy, Andy. You're supposed to be doing this other thing.
Yeah. So what a leader has to do now is, how do I make the vision bigger, or else you're going to get bored.
Yeah.
So now what you got to do is say, now I got to like, boom, how do I take this that now is covered and I'm feeling bored? How do I make myself not bored? Well, it's like, well, when you have a big, hairy, audacious goal, or you have something exciting, most people who start up a business know how to open doors, pioneer, move and shake.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do. So, but if you inherited a business and you didn't have to go do that, maybe you have a different skill set, but, you got to just make your vision bigger now. You just got to find a way to get something. What I like to say is like, excuse me, you got to make a company that I would say, how do I get a company that's got a big enough vision, that has enough going on, that like the most talented person who fits my core values that I would want to start a business with, want to be a part of, right? That I would want to work for. And so, the reality is the challenge, there's a big opportunity, excuse me, once you cross a certain level, you're going to have to create a big vision. And go ahead, ask another question, because I'm coughing over here.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm going to actually break away from that conversation there. I want to talk about salesmen, because I know that's really your wheelhouse, and a lot of salesmen in roofing, whether they're salesmen, like true salesmen, like commission-based salesmen, or they might be like I was for years. They were the owner of the company. They've got a 4 or 6 man crew. They work on the roof half the day, and they go out and sell jobs half the day. I know there's a lot of guys like that. People think sales guys are just the ones that's all they're doing is sales, but there's a lot of guys that are owner operators that are out doing sales. Tell me, what do you think of the main mistake of some of these smaller guys that want to maybe sell some more jobs in 2022. What do you think the main mistake they're making in their business?
There's so many ways to answer that. First one I'll say is they don't ask enough questions. They don't ask the right questions. They talk too much.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that sticks out. They don't ask enough questions. They spend a lot of time going up on roofs, doing inspections, put together proposals. They email too many proposals. They don't really solve problems because they didn't ask enough questions to find out what. I mean, obviously you can diagnose a roofing problem, but it's another thing to hear them share like prior roofing history and how they didn't, have a good experience doing this or that didn't work, or they know what's important. I mean, all that stuff, if you can interview and ask better questions and ask more questions, it's only going to increase your closing ratio, shorten your sales cycle. So think about this. You can either spend more time asking more questions that are good questions earlier, then the trade-off is you'll spend less time than if you flipped it, which, hey, I ask very little questions and I propose and I give a bid. Well, look, the time you could have spent up front, you're having to make up for later, which is I got to think it over. I got no answer. I got nothing. Or I have to go get more business. I got to revise the bid and rebid it because I didn't get enough information. So essentially, if you could see the trade-off of, hey, it's worth spending 20 minutes of questions up front and a lot less on the back end versus I spend very little up front and spend weeks or months on the back end trying to close this thing out. So that would be the main mistake. There's a whole lot more. Second mistake would be getting caught up doing, if you want to grow, getting caught up spending time in non-sales related activities when you have a good salesperson. Like they need to spend, or the owner, if they want to grow, they should fall more in love with sales than they should operations if they want to grow. You should be, quality is important. All that's really, really important. But if you spent, most guys spend 20% of their time on sales, that are really meaningful sales conversations. If they just spent 80% of their time, that's 4 times. Just without even hiring a salesman, they can go from 500 to 2 million or 1 million to 4 million, but they're just not doing what they did. They just hired that out. They tried the trusted teammate, and that's with one owner, just spending 4 times as much time actually in selling and then doing it the right way. Think about it. If I was just off the street and said, Andy, do these 3 things and you will 4x your business without spending any money on ads, and what would you do? You'd say, well, that sounds like kind of like a pipe dream. It doesn't sound real. That's actually what you do. It's just time management and some good sales training and sales process. You're going to be able to do things like that. And I've seen it happen. And what's really cool is when owners realize that they could teach other salespeople to do this within their organization too. And they're like, whoa, I actually can get, now I'm starting to not be a roofer anymore and start to be a leader of people that happen to do roofing. And that's really what makes me excited, is the potential for people to.
And I'm guilty of that. Industry. I'm guilty of that. Over the holiday season, the last month and a half, really the holiday season starts right around, week before Thanksgiving and then till the end of New Year's. And, my estimates from when I measured the roof to when I got the estimate back to the customer, it lags a little bit. It takes a while. And, and if I were just to put a process into place myself to say, I'm going to cut that time in half. Instead of 4 days, I'm going to do it in 2 days. Instead of 3 days, I'm going to do it in 1.5 days or whatever. That would definitely make an impact on what I'm doing. For sure.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being with me today. Any closing comments any gold nuggets you want to leave our listeners with on sales, specifically commercial roofing sales?
Yeah, commercial roofing sales, guys, this industry is growing and it's moving faster. The ways of old won't last, and the next generation is coming in knowing how to brand themselves. They're hungry. They're moving and shaking. Level up your game. it's time to level up, and when you do, you'll be able to continue to perform. Do it now before everybody starts to figure it out. Because being it's still kind of there where not everybody's figured it out. But look, like in 3 to 5 years, this entire industry is going to be so professionalized. You're going to have talented people that used to work for tech companies, do medical device sales, selling commercial roofing against you. And those sharp, they can speak eloquently, they can write great messaging, they can get to decision makers. Like, you're about to get your butt handed to you if you don't get sharpen up. And the good news is this industry is an amazing industry with tons of money in it. It's just level up your game. Learn to professionalize your outfit. You will never, ever see a bad return on investment by investing into your knowledge, your systems, and your people. You'll only see a bad investment if you invest outside of your organization and you don't get a return. For example, hey, I want to spend $5,000 a month with this company or that company. Is that going to stay with you, or is that gone, right? Is that making your brand better, or is that gone? What I'd rather see you do is transform yourself and your current teammates and have access to that type of resource. That's going to stick with you because it's going to pay you in spades year over year over year if they're a part of your organization and you've implemented it. There's so much opportunity. It's a great industry. I love this industry. Yeah. And I'm trying to make an impact. And I love hanging out, meeting you, and looking forward to meeting your crew and your following. And yet, seems like you're just doing things at a high level of integrity, and that means a ton. So it's great.
I appreciate that a lot. In closing, you're going to be down at the conference in Myrtle Beach, the Crew Summit conference that we're putting on with Commercial Roofers United. Just a short plug for that is the only way you can get to this conference is if you're part of the Commercial Roofers United Facebook group. So if you're not part of that group yet, because you might be listening to this on Spotify or iTunes or some other group, head over to Commercial Roofers United and apply. You have to answer all 3 questions in order to get in. It's a great group. And this conference that we're doing was born out of that group. It was really an idea from one of the moderators that, hey, instead of meeting virtually, we can have a place to meet physically and help impact the commercial roofing industry. And we have a bunch of great speakers that are going to come and talk to us about different levels of leadership and growth. And Ryan is one of them. And so I really appreciate him taking that on. And tell me a little bit about why they should come listen to you, Ryan.
Yeah, they haven't listened to me. They should. They're going to feel like this big, like growth and getting to the next level and hitting some amazing numbers that a lot of our customers are hitting. They're going to feel like, wow, that I can do that. They're going to walk away feeling confident that they can do it. They're going to have an ease about it. They're going to feel it's not as overwhelming. And because I've been at this niche for about 8.5 years and on my own for 4, next month will be 4 years with my own business. And
okay, cool.
This industry, I have an ability of making really complex and making really, really challenging things to accomplish achievable with people in this niche. This is my niche. I love it. So come, you're going to feel a spirit of encouragement from me. You're going to feel inspired, and you're going to feel confident in growing your business. And hopefully afterwards, you're like, man, how do I get more involved with Ryan and STG? And we'll certainly make an invitation for you while we're there.
Sweet. And just to reiterate, if anybody's wondering, this is what's called a no pitch conference, which means all the speakers cannot pitch their product or their service from the stage. So he'll have an opportunity to give us contact information and stuff like that. So you'll know how to get a hold of him, but he will not be selling the service and stuff from the stage. He's just going to be giving you 100% value and tips that you can practically put into place. So yeah, super excited about that. Well, thanks for being on the show today, Ryan. I wish you a good weekend and I wish you a wild 2022. And we'll be seeing you down in South Carolina.
Yeah. Thanks, Andy. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. Have a good night.
You've been listening to the Rocket Roof Show podcast. Be sure to subscribe through your favorite podcasting platforms such as iTunes or Google Play to get the latest episodes as they are launched. For more, Please follow us on social media or visit our website at rocketwoofshow.com. We look forward to joining you here again soon at the next launch.